What is a process server? Hey everybody, it's Shamika. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share my videos. I appreciate your support. Now, if you watched my previous video, I did a video on what it takes to become a remote online notary in the state of Florida. And since I was already offering a myriad of services, I thought, well, why not try to add something new? And I came across process serving. So if you guys are not familiar with process serving, I'm going to explain that to you now. All right. So what is a process server? Well, pretty much a process server is the individual that usually comes up to you, comes to your house or wherever you may be, and they always ask you, are you so-and-so? And then you'll go, yes. And they'll go, hand you some paper and they'll go, you've been served. All right. So I'm sure you guys have probably wondered, how did they get that job? Well, I'm going to go over it right now. So I am now certified as a process server, and I just kind of want to go through what I went through so that I can hopefully help someone else that's interested in doing so. So I got my notes here. All right, so what is it? So pretty much I explained what it is. It's the individual that comes and hands the paperwork to you when you are being sued, or if your company's being sued, whatever that case may be. It's not just necessarily being sued, but if you're summoned to go to court, an individual, a process server, would be hired or contracted to find you, pretty much track you down and provide you with your summons so that you know what it is that you need to do next. All right. How do you apply to be a process server? Well, process servers are broken down by the circuits in your state. So you would first have to contact your local circuit court or county court, and or you can go to their website and type in process server. You should be able to find an application with at least the requirements of what it is that it takes to be a process server. And I'm going to read a couple of those to you. This is going to be pretty much overall for everybody, and it is: you must be 18 years of older, must have no mental or legal disability, you must be a resident of the state that you are applying in. You have to have a certificate of training. Usually that training is going to be either a 16-hour class, or your circuit court may require you to do a ride-along in addition to, or in lieu of, whichever they decide. But you can do a ride-along, and that's where you pretty much, you ride along with other process servers and you see what it is that they go through, and you kind of learn through on-the-job training versus sitting in the classroom for the 2 days and taking a test and becoming certified that way. I actually took the class, and I'll explain that later on, but they do have sometimes different requirements when it comes to that. You must have a driver's license. You will need a surety bond. So here goes a tip. If you are planning on becoming a process server soon and you get your surety bond, first, your surety bond needs to be a minimum of $5,000, and it needs to be made out to the court, not to you or not to your business. It needs to be made out to the court, that the circuit court that you are applying in. Say you get that surety bond in January, but you might not take the class until May or April. You actually are, it's a disadvantage, because you're actually losing the time that you paid for on your surety bond. And if you don't plan on getting certified and start working right away, then the agent or the individual that works at the courthouse, they may delay your application. They may ask you to extend your surety bond so that you can have a full year. That is what happened to me. I got my bond, still wasn't really sure if I wanted to do the process serving, but I had the application sitting around, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And I went and turned it in, and the courts contacted me and said, hey, you know, you lost 4 months just from not doing anything, and we'd like for you to extend your bond so that you can be covered for a full year versus coming in and halfway through. So make sure that you are on top of that if you are considering doing this and doing it very quickly. You will need, of course, your regular information: name, date of birth, social security number, and they will require fingerprints and a background check. Okay, that is not on the application, but you absolutely have to do that. Okay, so the application really isn't anything. It's pretty basic, just asking you your information. You are going to pretty much give them copies of your driver's license. The courts usually charge anywhere from $100 and $125 for processing. It could go up as much as $150, and that's because the fingerprinting fee is included with the application fee. So if you go to get your fingerprints done and try to turn your whole packet in like I did, it said fingerprints, so I went to the sheriff's department to get my fingerprints done, and come to find out that my fingerprints were going to have to be paid for again unless I went to the courthouse first, dropped off my application, and got a receipt showing that I paid. Then I went back to the courthouse and I got my fingerprints done for free. So if you're considering doing that, make sure you work that out to figure out if that fingerprinting fee is included. They usually don't tell you, which is crazy. It's not broken down. It's just a total fee. So make sure you get what you paid for. The next thing, let's see. The surety bond. So I know a lot of people probably asking about that. You really can just go and you could just type in surety bond until on the internet. And let me say that your surety bond fees, they do pull your credit. So if your surety bond is, $300 or $400 just for a $5,000 bond, that's pretty indicative that your score isn't too high, and the company considers you a high risk based off of the way you managed your credit, so you have to pay more in order to be covered. This is no different than a car insurance rate. This is no different than when you're applying for a credit card, and some people get, a 2.99 APR, and some people get 16.99. It all depends on your credit. So your surety bond fee does depend on that. And normally it should be maybe $100 to $200. That's someone with pretty decent credit, but if it's more than that, that could be because you have a credit issue. Now, let me say that you can be denied a surety bond for credit. So just because you are applying doesn't mean you're going to get something. Some of these companies don't even want to deal with you. So if your credit is like in the 400s, I would tell you to fix your credit first before applying for bonds, because they are credit based. All right. Let's see what else. So I got the application fee, the fingerprints. Okay, we got the background check. If I didn't mention it, they do a background check. If you're a notary, if you're someone that was in the military, background checks usually take a while. If you are a real estate agent, those background checks can take anywhere 30, 45 days. That is the last step once you get the approval to the go ahead, because it is if I'm not mistaken, it's the FBI background check. So once you get the okay, you're free to go and you can start working. As a matter of fact, your court won't even certify you to start working for them until the background comes back. So after you've done, after you've gotten your application fee, after you've gotten your fingerprints and you turn that in, you will then go and take a class. But while you're in class and while you're finishing up your last little bit, your background check is actually processing in the background. So from the time that you finish class, especially if you take a class and it's only 2 weeks, you probably only have about another 2 to 3 weeks left. And then if your background check is a go, you can start working. So that's good, because that gives you a chance to be able to retain your information. And this is the little guidebook I got. I'll go over this in a minute, but this is the stuff that we're supposed to be able to retain. And it's like, we're just delivering forms. But anyway, all right, so background check, surety bond, application fee, fingerprints, we got all that, right? Now we're gonna move on to the class. Now, if you are one of the individuals that your circuit court tells you that you need to take a class, the great part is it's only a 2-day class. It's 16 hours. It's actually a pretty interesting class. I actually went and took my class with Avalon Legal. If you are anywhere from, let's see, Treasure Coast, in Florida all the way up to about Jacksonville, they cover the whole area. So if you're in Orlando, if you're in Seminole County, Brevard County, any of those counties in Florida, Avalon Legal, I took them myself so I can recommend them. This is the handbook that they give us, and they kind of go over everything in this book in these 2 days. But what makes it interesting is the fact that they use a lot of examples. All right, so I did think that was kind of neat. Another thing that I thought was good was that you get to learn a lot about what a registered agent is. So if you're an individual who incorporates businesses, or if you're thinking about starting a business and you had no idea what a registered agent is, a lot of the specifics and what those positions really do, where it really drills down or nails down to their more than the registered agent just receiving your mail for you. They actually receive summons. That's not something that you would probably normally read. This is something you have to find out from taking classes like this, but it was neat to find out some of the things that I did not know from a business perspective, I guess being on this side versus being the person that's in business, okay? But like I said, the class is just 8 hours. It took a break every hour for about 5-10 minutes. Then we came back in. And the last day of class, I think we were in class maybe half a day, and then we studied for the exam, and then we took the exam. It is not open book, but they do one hell of a review before you take the test. And it's just one of those things that if you can remember what you answered in the class when you were discussing the exam, you'll have no problem passing the exam. As soon as you take the exam, the teacher is right there. She grades your paper right in front of you. She comes to your desk actually, and you know before you leave if you've passed. So that's the great thing. You get a certificate in the mail maybe a week or two later. If the courts need that, you can always turn it in, but they actually send something to the court on your behalf as well. So that's good to know. All right, so let's get down to what I really think about process serving. Well, first, let me, I realized that I don't know if I mentioned the fees, but I'll mention that again. It is $100 up to about $140 for your fingerprinting and your application fee, but the class is, I believe the class is $85. They teach a class, I think, once a week in each different location. They're retired, and they did process serving for, I think, their whole career. And I believe the owner, one of the instructors, her husband is a lawyer. So we have someone there to answer our legal questions, which I thought was pretty cool too. So all in all, you're probably out of pocket about, let's see, including the surety bond, maybe $500, $400 or $500. So here goes my feedback, and I'll tell you if I think it's worth it. For me, I think any amount of knowledge that you normally would not get anywhere else is always worth it. So taking this training was worth it. The class was really, really helpful. I am lucky that I am a part of a circuit that allows me to take the class versus the ride along. I think that I would hate to do the ride along. It's a stranger. I don't want to be in the car with somebody I don't know. So I'm just happy that I got this option. I do think it's a bit pricey to have to pay to start up, because you don't even know if this is something that you want to do. It was something I was interested in, but I don't know if it's something that I want to do. I think by the last day of the class, which was only the second day, I was thinking to myself, I don't think this is something that I want to do. This society is crazy. We got Black Lives Matter movement. We got Trump in the White House. I mean, I don't know if I want to be an African-American female walking into someone's house and serving them, and they are able to say what they want, do what they want, and you as a process server, there's really not much legal recourse that we have other than calling the police on them, but we're still on their property. So I'll tell you that, yes, I am going to sign up to actually go out and do my first serve, but I don't think it's something that I want to do full time. One, I was a little disappointed, and I'm just going to give you some of the cons really quick. I was disappointed that process serving, you normally get paid anywhere from $40 to $65, which probably sounds like a lot, but it's not when you include the fact that you have to make an attempt 3 times to reach a person. So if I have to go and drive 30, 40 minutes or whatever out of my way to try to contact someone, and the rule book states that you can't contact someone at the same time. So I have to make a contact 3 times at 3 different times of the day, on 3 different days. So $40 to $65 after 3 attempts, and that's if you don't. And that's if that 3 attempts is if you can't find them the first, second, or first or the second time. But I just don't know if I think that that's worth it. The second thing, like I mentioned before, the society. I'm a female, and I don't know how comfortable I feel taking a job that maybe the homeowner is a gun owner and they come to the door with a gun because, I can't wear a badge. And I've seen pictures online that show individuals who take their job way too serious. They're process servers, but they're wearing badges like they're a member of law enforcement, and you're not a member of law enforcement, guys. At least not in Florida. You are just an individual who is attached to the courts, and they use you to go and make deliveries for them because the sheriffs don't have time to do these. And what is great about these, and I'll get to that in the pros. I'm not going to talk about it yet. So I also feel going in the door, a lot of times process servers don't even get the respect they deserve, because they're kind of looked down upon. They're not a court employee. They're not a court employee. They're not a government employee. They're not a state employee, and they're also not hired by the state or even the court. You're really an independent contractor. So those are kind of some of the things that I just didn't make me super comfortable, especially when they start talking about pets. And, they can come to the door and people are getting bit before. And you can't fight these people, or you can't become an ass and talk to them rude, because they can easily report you and then you lose your job. It's that easy. So it didn't seem like something I thought I was going to enjoy doing. Now, here goes some of the things that I thought were great about it. One, you can be an instant boss. And I don't mean instant boss as if you're working for your company yourself. Instant boss as in you can actually start your own process serving company, because as process servers, you get a lot of work. So if you're going to get a lot of work, you can now pass this work on to other people. They also do have to be trained, but now you can hire and have individuals working for you, and you don't have to do any serving. So I thought that was great. The next thing that I thought was great about it is that there's always going to be a reason for somebody to be served. So you'll never be out of season. You'll always be busy. You can easily make your $400 to $500 back, I'd say, within the 60 days if you're busy. You will need to market yourself. So I like that also, because now you can make your marketing whatever you want to. You're not constrained by this government site. They got to go find you and pick your name from a list like they do with the notary. You can actually be called whatever you want and just get noticed, and people can just start using you. I also like, and this is probably the most important, is these aren't criminal summons that we're delivering. So I don't have to worry about going and doing what some of the sheriffs have to do. I feel sorry. I see why those guys have to carry guns and stuff like that. I would not want to have to do that. And as a process server, even if you are and this is actually a con, but if you're a concealed handgun owner, at least in Florida, you can't have your weapon on you because of the role that you're in. And being a concealed handgun owner, you can only keep your weapon in your car. So thought that sucked too. Here goes another pro. I don't know if you guys care or not, but because you are a civil process server, at least in the state of Florida, you are kind of on the same level as private investigators. So you can tint your car darker. I think that was probably the only thing that I thought was like, ooh, was really great, besides the being your own boss, is you can have your tint darker. But you have to explain that to a police officer every single time you're pulled over. So I don't even know if you want to consider that to be a pro. But anyway, so after you finish the class, what do you do to get a job? And then I'll be done with this video. Pretty much what you're gonna have to do after you pass your background check and you get the good to go, you're actually gonna have to go out to companies that hire lots of process servers, just like companies that hire notaries, and you're gonna sign up and let them know that you're available to work. You're gonna upload all your information, and then they're just gonna start sending you stuff. And it's gonna be just like with the notaries. You can accept yes or no to take the job. There is a lot of paperwork and record keeping that you have to do. I think there was another thing that I was just like, you know what, I don't know if this is worth it. You know, if this is something that you want to do, I would really think about being the boss and hiring other people, because you're definitely going to need an administrative person once you start bringing in a lot of stuff, because you're going to need to keep these things on file, because guess what? Process servers sometimes have to go to court. And let me add this too. If you do something wrong in the service of process, which they call it, you can mess around and have someone lose. You can have the lawyer that hired you lose the case, and because you didn't do something right, or you didn't give it to them at a certain time, or you handed it to this person and not that person. So all I'll say is, it is a lot to have to think about. It's a lot to consider. That needs to be something that you think on a lot. I would tell you to read a little bit about process serving to see if that's something that you want to do, especially in your state, because you may not get a lot of respect or any type of protection based off of your state. I really don't feel that Florida gave process service that much protection. I especially was against the part of not being able to carry the concealed weapon. I just couldn't understand that, you know, but they don't, and that's okay. So you definitely want to find that out, and then just put the fees down, and hey, make that decision to see if it's something that you want to do. But if you're a notary, if you do semi-legal work, and you want to add something to your services that can actually generate money, because it will generate money, you can stay very busy doing this. You just have to decide if you have the temperament, the mindset, the patience, and the time to be able to invest into being a process server. So I hope I helped you guys. If you have any questions, please leave them below, or you can find me on Shamika Saves at Facebook or Instagram. I'm very active in those places, and you can get me a lot easier. But again, thank you for watching my video. I appreciate your support. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.